So Pain Hustlers is a new film that recently came out on Netflix. This was directed by David Yates, who you may know from the majority of the Harry Potter movies, both prequels and main saga. You've got a great cast in here, anchored by Emily Blunt and Chris Evans. And Chris Evans in this plays very much a con man. And I really enjoy stories about con men, like Wolf of Wall Street, how they basically cheat the system and rise their way up from nothing. But the true heart of this story is Emily Blunt. Blunt plays a woman named Eliza, who after losing her job is struggling to raise her daughter. Her daughter, played by Coleman, has health concerns of her own, which are extremely tragic and emotional in their own right. So Blunt takes a job out of desperation working for Chris Evans' character. So she starts to work at this failing pharmaceutical startup. But what she doesn't anticipate is the dangerous racketeering scheme she suddenly entered. And when we first meet Blunt's character, she is at the lowest point of lows that you can meet someone at. She is at the bottom of the barrel when it comes to societal norms. But once she starts working with Chris Evans, the money starts coming in, and oh my god, the greed starts. Now, Netflix has come out with a great number of true story narratives, and this was a big thing around the start of the 2010s, guys. And you certainly feel the ramifications of what actually went down. Again, I don't want to spoil anything just in case you don't know the story going in, because I watched this with my girlfriend and she really didn't have much of an idea of what this all was about. But once you're hit with the consequences of the actions of our characters, yeah, it's definitely effective. And the acting in this movie across the board is very effective. Emily Blunt is fantastic in this movie. Her and Chris Evans, both A-list actors, and they are still finding ways to challenge themselves at this stage of their careers. Blunt especially gets to explore so much emotional depth with this character, and the morals that this character explores throughout it, man oh man, I'm sure Emily Blunt couldn't wait to sink her teeth into this. Chris Evans, on the other hand, yes, he is fabulous in the movie, but I definitely was wanting some more depth out of him the more I think about it. Because if you haven't seen Chris Evans in Knives Out and anything of the sort, yeah, Chris Evans can definitely play a sleazy con man. He can definitely play up the slimier side of the spectrum when it comes to heroes and villains. And Evans definitely does well in this movie, and I was so entertained by him. But I don't think this screenplay necessarily explores the emotional depths or his motivations as much as it could have. Matter of fact, I really don't think the movie's emotional focus was where it should have been. Because the connection that Liza Drake, Emily Blunt's character, has with her daughter, played by Coleman, that should have been the emotional crutch of this movie. I was definitely more interested to see where those characters were going to go. And I was definitely curious to see where Liza's mother, played by Catherine O'Hara, went. And Catherine O'Hara is as solid as she usually is. I love her so freaking much. But again, I really wanted to explore a little bit more of those characters' motivations and why they're getting into this business. And as it sits, the only character where you really understand the motivations of why they get into this business is Emily Blunt's character. Because I feel like the screenplay is more focused on showing you the historical events of what happened, which I certainly appreciate. But in that case, why not just make a documentary? Like, I feel like if you really wanted to educate yourself on what this whole crisis was all about, a documentary format would have probably been more educational and more effective in showing you the ramifications of what happened. Because true story movies can definitely be hit or miss, guys. There's definitely the risk of over-dramatizing the situation. There's definitely a risk of not showing you everything that happened beat by beat. And it might not be historically accurate. And that can be very dangerous, especially if you're trying to educate the audience and show them a little bit of a cautionary tale. Which this movie does. I'm definitely not knocking it at all. I was very entertained by Chris Evans' antics, and I was really pulling for Emily Blunt's character and Coleman. I love Coleman as well. Like, she is an up-and-coming actress that I keep telling you guys, that is an up-and-coming name that you cannot gloss over from now on. Coleman is awesome. And I feel like if you really wanted to strike a chord with the audience, maybe a narrative film wasn't the way to go with telling this story. Maybe you could have told it in a documentary form. Or heck, if you wanted to go ahead and put A-list actors into this story, I feel like it would have been more effective as a mini-series, if I'm being honest. Because once you get closer to the third act, and once you see all this drama building on top of one another, you're going to sense that there's going to be a gigantic explosion at the end. And there is. And there's some effective scenes towards the last part of this movie. but it honestly kind of feels rushed. Like all the drama you've been sitting through and the satisfying ending that you're sure to get, it's boom, 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 boom. Okay, this happens to this character, that happened to that character over there. And the movie really doesn't let you take a moment to breathe and really let you ponder why these things happen to these characters. But with that in mind, I mean, great acting and some really nice cinematography to boot. Pain Hustlers is nowhere near as bad of a movie as most critics are saying it is. Definitely deserves higher than a 24% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I actually want to commend David Yates for a second for once again stepping out of his comfort zone. I know him for the Harry Potter saga, and it's really weird when you see him not doing a movie in the wizarding world. I think the last time he did a movie outside of the Potterverse was The Legend of Tarzan, which honestly is a movie I did not hate. I found that movie very entertaining. And this movie definitely has some entertaining performances, but for a story like this to really strike the best chord with your audience and to really send that message to them, a documentary or a miniseries might have been the better medium to go with. But with that said, I'm going to give Pain Hustlers a C+. This movie was interesting. My girlfriend and I definitely learned some stuff, but I'm telling you, a documentary about this crisis, you probably would have learned a lot more. Let me know what you thought of Pain Hustlers down in the comments section below. Let me know what your favorite Emily Blunt performance is of all time. Let me know what your favorite Chris Evans performance is. As always, I love discussing all new things in movies and entertainment here on the regular. This channel is the place to be if you want to keep up to date with all things new. So do consider subscribing and joining the family today. Y'all are invited. Tap that thumbs up as well. And stay tuned for more videos hitting the channel very soon. Very excited to check out The Killer finally hitting Netflix this weekend. Wasn't playing anywhere close by in theaters, so I had to wait for it to stream on Netflix. That's some David Fincher though, and he's going right back to his bread and butter, the crime thriller. I can't freaking wait. And of course, two big Marvel projects coming out, Loki Season 2's finale, and I'll be talking about the entire season in one video, as well as The Marvels, which I cannot wait to watch this Thursday. All that to come and much, much more, y'all. So with all that being said, back talk, commence.